Hey guys, I'm Robert. Today I want to give you an overview of Clop, a file optimization tool for Mac. I actually covered this app on the channel a while back, and at the time I was already using it every day. But a couple of years have already passed, the app has gotten some significant updates, and I think it's worth revisiting, especially because of one feature in particular that has changed how I use it. I'll tell you more on that in a moment. First, let me give you some context here. If you work on a Mac and you are regularly dealing with screenshots, screen recordings, images, or other media files, you have probably hit a wall at some point when trying to use them as email attachments or uploading them to different sites. Every platform has its own restrictions and it can get annoying, so you need a way to bring file size down without affecting quality. This is even useful for local storage if you want to be mindful of the space on your Mac. There are actually a lot of apps that do this, and some of them are free, so why Clop specifically? For me, it always comes down to how well something fits into the way I already work. I don't just want to install another utility in my system if it's not flexible enough. I'm always looking for something I can automate, tweak, and wire into my existing setup. Clop gives me that. At its core, the idea is simple. You've got a media file that's bigger than you want, you run it through Clop, you get a smaller version. You can even do a side-by-side comparison to make sure quality held up. It handles images, video, audio, and PDFs. But what makes Clop interesting for me is everything beyond basic compression. You can also resize, crop, convert between formats, rename the output following templates, all as part of the same process. And the way you interact with it is where things get powerful. Let me walk you through the settings a bit, then I will give you a quick look at how I use it. When you open the settings for the first time, it can feel a bit overwhelming. There are a lot of options, but once you start going through them, everything has a clear purpose. If you don't want to overcomplicate things with just a few toggles, you can get this working for you. But on the other hand, this is one of those apps that makes the complexity manageable. And it can actually be a feature because it means you can set it up exactly the way you want. For example, you can turn on clipboard watching. That means any file that hits your clipboard gets automatically processed without extra steps. You can also set watch folders. So any file that lands in a specific folder, say your downloads folder or your screenshots folder, gets processed automatically the moment it arrives. If you're more picky about this, you can configure rules for the processing levels and all the different settings. With all of this, if you want a fully hands-off setup, you can absolutely do that. Personally, I like a bit more control over what gets processed and when, so I keep clipboard optimization and watch folders off. One of my favorite ways to use Clop actually is via the drop zone. I have it set so that when I start dragging a file and hold Option, a shelf appears where I can drop things I want to process. I also use Dropover, another app I have covered before. I've got this one set to watch my downloads and screenshots folder. Files land in a Dropover shelf automatically, and from there I can drag to other apps. So if I need to optimize something, it's just a matter of dragging over to Clop. Clop can even send the result back to a Dropover shelf if I want, but usually I'm fine keeping the output in Clop's temporary UI, which I can hide or put back with a keyboard shortcut. When I hover over a processed file in there, I get quick options to resize, adjust compression, convert, and when I'm done, I just drag it wherever I need it. In practice, this is super fast and natural to use if you already got a hand over your mouse or trackpad. By the way, since Dropover has a handy shortcuts integration, I don't even need to drag to Clop. I can trigger the same optimization with just a keypress. But using the drag feature of Clop has another benefit because there's something called preset zones. When you are dragging a file and you hit the option modifier, the Clop shelf appears. If you then press Ctrl as well, you get different targets, each one performing a different set of actions on your file. You configure those presets in settings and you can have different ones for different file types. So dropping an image into one zone might downscale and optimize for web use, while another might convert to a different format or apply different settings. It's really handy. And this leads me to the new feature that made me want to make this video, pipelines. A pipeline is basically a saved sequence of steps. You define what should happen to a file in what order, and you can reuse it whenever you want. So instead of doing the same 3 things manually every time, like dragging to Clop, then having to click to convert to JPEG, then downscale, you set that up once as a pipeline and just run it. Those preset zones I mentioned are pipelines. Let me show you what this looks like in the settings. I use this one very often. Let's click Edit to check the syntax. It resizes to 1920 on the long edge, converts to JPEG if it isn't already, then it will optimize. You can assign pipelines to any part of the app: clipboard, automatic processing, watch folders, the preset zones, even the main drop zone itself. Now, there's also a dedicated pipelines tab where you can manage everything in one place and assign pipelines across the app without having to dig into each individual section. I personally prefer to use this because the pipelines you create here, even without assigning them to any area, will still be available via the CLI. Building a pipeline is pretty intuitive. You start typing in the pipeline editor, even just a space will show you a list of available actions. For the most part, I like to pass the original file to the pipeline and optimize it as a last step. That way, I avoid multiple compression artifacts. So a typical one might be passing the original file, do something with it, let's say crop to aspect ratio and let's make it square. Then optimize, and I want to grab a link for sharing with an expiration of 15 minutes. That's it. You can continue connecting more steps here, and even though there are some limitations, there's a lot you can do with this. Let's say I want to add this new pipeline to my drop zone. I can do that directly from here. So now, if I take a screenshot, make some annotations with CleanShot X, another app I love, and drag to Clop, in a couple of seconds, I got my file cropped, optimized, and I have a link to share on my clipboard. By the way, a useful thing here is that if you are a bit confused about the syntax for pipelines or you need some help, Clop comes with a CLI. So in terminal, you can just type Clop pipeline prompt. I want to do X or Y, and you get a prompt that you can directly send to your favorite AI tool. Speaking of the CLI, this is actually one more thing I love about the app. When I first discovered Clop, I built a pretty simple Alfred workflow around it, but my own skills at building workflows have improved over time, and now I've gotten help from AI, so I went back and put together something better. If you are more of a keyboard user and you got Alfred, then you can basically skip the dragging with the mouse and take action on any selected file on Finder or your clipboard. For example, I also have this app for screen annotation called Brilliant, and with this I can zoom in on my screen, so it's great if you want to work together with an AI agent for feedback. I also use it a lot for walkthrough videos. I can quickly annotate something, copy a frame, and run it through any of Clop's actions. I can also run it through any of my saved pipelines, or if I know the syntax, I can do custom stuff directly, like convert to WebP. Look at that size difference. I mean, this app just covers a lot of ground. I am doing content creation, but I'm also a photographer. I do some video work, and I also spend some time building and troubleshooting utilities. Media files are a constant in my workflow. Clop covers basically everything I throw at it, and it truly is amazing. That, plus the developer is really responsive, he listens to feedback, he's constantly shipping updates, fixing bugs, or implementing new things, and I think that makes a big difference in this ever-changing software landscape. This is not a sponsored video. This time I got no affiliate links for you. I just like the app and wanted to tell you about it. If you have got an interesting setup with Clop, I would love to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. I'm always looking for new ways to use this. Don't forget to check the description for the links to all the apps I mentioned. If you want more updates on what I'm up to, you can always sign up to my newsletter. Thank you for watching. Talk to you soon.